Don't cross the stream.
Anybody else want to negotiate?
Do not make a sound until I tell you to run.
Are you trying to make me look stupid in front of the other guests?
Don't need any help from me, sir.
That's right.
Welcome to Is It Streaming, the podcast where we pick a movie from the endless queue and help you decide if it's a hidden gem, a waste of time, or worth adding to your watch list. I'm your host, Silvia Graziano, and as always, I'm joined by both my co-hosts, John Mostich and Kevin Rossi. John, why don't you let the listeners know what movie we are covering this week?
I would love to, Silvia. Today we're discussing the amazing 2019 science fiction mystery film, The Vast of Night. Oh, give you chills. Directed by Andrew Patterson. This movie was released during the middle of COVID, and it did win the Slam Dance Film Festival Audience Award for Best Narrative Feature, and also in the Toronto International Film Festival, it was the runner-up People Choice Award. So, Kevin, is it streaming?
Yes, this is currently streaming on Amazon Prime.
John, why don't you give us your history with this movie? Was this a rewatch or your first time?
Definitely a first watch for me. It definitely was brand new territory. It brought back some old memories of some things, but it was never seen before by me. It was fresh eyes for me. Kevin, how about you?
Same deal for me. I'd never heard of this film, let alone seen it. I've seen it 3 times in the last week. It was a pleasant surprise, and I'm really anxious to get to talking about it. How about you, Silvia?
I love this film. This was a rewatch for me. I did see it actually when it first started streaming. I think it premiered on Prime back in 2020. So I know it was in the festival circuit in 2019, arrived to Prime 2020, watched it, and absolutely loved it. It was a very unique take on a typical traditional kind of story.
And for this being released on streaming in 2020, I'm very surprised I'd never even heard of this, seeing that I was stuck in my home for 18 months watching nothing but streaming stuff. So I'm very surprised this was not more well-known.
Well, I think it was like a sleeper hit, right? I think you had to be like a super fan of maybe the genre itself, because it definitely goes under the radar. But with that said, guys, the film has a 6.7 rating on IMDb, and the IMDb log line is... One night in New Mexico in the late 1950s, a switchboard operator and a radio DJ start hearing a strange signal over a radio frequency. Ooh.
Scary.
How does this film start off here, guys? We find ourselves fading in to a glowing black and white television, flickering in a dark room, the screen humming with eerie static.
You were entering a realm between clandestine and forgotten, a slipstream caught between channels, the secret museum of mankind, the private library of shadows, all taking place on a stage forged from mystery and found only on a frequency caught between logic and myth. You were entering Paradox Theater. Tonight's episode, The Vast of Night.
We're pulled into the Paradox Theater, a Twilight Zone-style series, and as the camera pushes through the screen, we find ourselves drifting into the small desert town of Cayuga, New Mexico, sometime in the late 1950s. Night has fallen. A high school gym pulses with the noise of a pre-basketball game, bouncing balls, squeaky shoes, teenage laughter echoing off the cinder block walls. But our attention quickly shifts from the crowd to a fast-talking teenage radio DJ named Everett Sloan, played by Jake Horowitz. He's strutting into the scene with a tape recorder slung over his shoulder and a cigarette hanging from his lip. Everett is equal parts confident broadcaster and small-town snarky teenager. And then we meet Faye Crocker, played by Sierra McCormick, a young, curious, and bright-eyed switchboard operator with a mile-a-minute way of talking and a fascination for radio waves and gadgets of the future. She's got a tape recorder of her own, which Everett teaches her how to use by conducting person-on-the-street type interviews with random locals before the big basketball game.
What a beginning.
Sylvia gets right into the mood of the piece. The way you read the opening is very much like a radio broadcast show.
Oh, could there be a theme here?
Wait, are we in the movie right now?
We might
On
be.
tonight's episode of Paradox Theater, is it streaming?
Yeah, man. So we got to break this down, guys. So what do we think about this opening?
I mean, the first shot where it starts, you're in the living room and you're looking at this old school tube television and it's all black and white. I was like, oh, this is going to be cool. And then you get the voiceover that's clearly an homage to the Twilight Zone. And they say tonight's episode of Paradox Theater is into the vast of night.
Yeah.
And I thought it was great. And I love how they cut from that scene to a black and white profile shot of a man that's putting on a hat and being like, oh, you're going to the game tonight? Oh, yeah, I'm going to the game tonight. And then it fades into the scene where we meet Everett. I thought it was really cool. What do you think, John?
So, listeners, we're going to get right into. John has issues with this movie. I don't want anything I'm going to say to be taken as this isn't a really well done movie. Loved it. I don't like scary movies, but I also don't like movies that take time to create the apprehension. So I will say this. So everything I say from now on, just understand that, folks. I did like that. I did like that part where they offer up from the very beginning, get ready for the Twilight Zone. This is an episode of the Twilight Zone. It's just not technically affiliated with it, but we might as well just tell you right now, you're going to have standard Twilight Zone things. I did like how they kind of pushed into the television at certain times, pulled out of the television at certain times, making you in the film, making you watch the film, but also every once in a while pulling you out of the film to remember you're watching a Twilight Zone episode.
I definitely felt like a voyeur. You're watching it as an audience member. You're watching a film about a television show. It gets very sort of meta like that. I loved the atmosphere. I loved how they were establishing that small town. You got to know all these people in the dialogue, really fast talking, really fun one-liners. You get to know these two kids, right? Our two main characters. But you also really do get an understanding of the town and how they're all connected. Like everyone knows Everett, right?
Yep.
Everett is there at the gym right now because he was called to fix some electrical issue, I think that was happening in the
Wrongly
basement, right?
called to fix an electrical issue. They were looking for Emmett, not Everett.
Emmett, I know. And there's like, no, this is Everett. Even that gives you this personality of the town, right?
And I think you nailed it, Silvia. I think one of the crowning achievements of this film is the world that they created. I mean, you literally could see a still from this film and know it's from the film. They did a pretty flawless job, I think, of creating all the boundaries of the world, the vibe of the characters.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, it's beautiful. And John?
Yeah, okay. So I don't disagree. I did like that it was not Everett that they were looking for. Wait, is it Emmett that they were looking for? Right?
Yes, they were looking for Emmett. He may or may not have worked at the radio station. There was quite a lot of debate.
I thought that was so funny. Like they were like convinced.
I do think that that's actually the very first sign of something's going wrong. I do think it's the very first time that there's lack of communication, or as some people will say, that some things are there, but then they're not there. Some things are thought to be true that are not true. That's kind of a foreshadowing, I think, of a lot of different things. I think that's the very first sign of that, unless you want to count the trombone. I think that comes before that. I don't disagree with what you guys are saying about those characters. I just wish I got to know them more than 3 or 4 seconds. I think all of those characters were very much introducing the village that they were in. And I would love to have gotten to know them a little bit more than just they see them in the back room, there's a little confusion, and they walk away.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I get it. I mean, they were fascinating. It would be nice to spend more time with them. I know they were just essentially the minor characters to just help us establish kind of the world that we're in.
If I'm not mistaken, too, that was on a one shot, right? That was on a long...
Yeah.
No, actually, there was cuts in there. I think Silvia mentioned it. This takes place in Cayuga, New Mexico, which is not an actual town. But Cayuga, the name was taken from Cayuga Productions, which is Rod Sterling's production company that produced The Twilight Zone.
There you go.
But population 492, as we see on the sign when we first push into the TV.
I think that's awesome. There's definitely Easter eggs here, guys, and we'll get into that, especially as we move from that opening scene, right? There is a very long shot. We are watching Faye and Everett walking These dirt roads.
With the overhanging center of the street lights.
You're getting to know them better, their interests and everything, and their relationship, their friendship. And they're heading off to their jobs, I guess, their evening shifts, right?
Yeah, but I'm going to slow you down, Sylvia. I'm going to slow you down here. One thing that is clearly established here is that there is not fast-paced cutting. They are doing 1950s style camera setups. Once we actually get to Everett's face, we see him still inside the television, and he's black and white, and it's a close-up, and then it fades to color, and he's smoking his first cigarette of the movie, of many, and it's a one-shot where he turns around, and one of his friends meets him, and they walk into the gym, and that moves into a wide shot. I think that shot is fantastic. It's how they used to shoot back in the day, because they could not do a ton of camera setups, because the lights were insanely hot. You could barely touch them. The camera weighed 100 pounds. You had to have it on tracks, the whole deal. So, and I love that idea of when you can only set up the camera one time for a scene, you have to make a close-up shot. You have to make a wide shot and a medium shot. And the way that you're going to do that is through blocking. And John, what is blocking for some of our fans who might not know?
All right. Well, blocking, it could be many things. First, it could be it's basically it's
Legos.
It's both where the actors are, but it's also where the camera is. So the camera as a character can sometimes influence both the way the actors act, but they're kind of an extra character within the movie, which represents the audience or the perspective. So blocking is just the general motion of the scene.
Exactly. And I think you notice immediately that the camera is almost a character in this. They're taking long takes. They're doing a lot of one shots. And after we get the introduction of everyone at the basketball game, we go out into the parking lot. And Faye shows that she just got a brand new tape recorder. And Everett is the local night DJ at WOTC.
So I don't know if you guys noticed what that acronym is. WOTW, which, if we know, War of the Worlds.
Oh,
get out. Okay, I now love the film. I changed my mind.
You just had to find those Easter eggs.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. I will kind of jump back real quick to the tape recorder because it wasn't the tape recorder that I had as a kid. It was a reel-to-reel.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It wasn't like a cassette tape. And cassette tapes, I'm looking up right now, looks like they did come out in the 1960s.
Next decade. Makes sense.
Yeah,
it's the same type of format. You know, they're still using tape, but enclosed, right?
Right, yeah.
You know, one of the things I really liked about this was the slang that they had for so much stuff. Like back then, it was so cool. A lot of it was fast talking. Honestly, I'm going to bring it up right now. One of the things I did not like, and I watched this with my 11-year-old son, and when Everett is smoking a cigarette throughout this entire opening scene that they're doing, you can barely understand what he's saying. It was one of the things I did not like about the movie. I had the closed captions on, which I typically watch with films. But even then, I was like, what is this guy? You could tell that the actor who played Everett definitely is not a smoker in real life. He could barely talk with a freaking cigarette in. But I mean, good for him. You won't get cancer. But holy shit. I could not hear a goddamn thing.
You're right.
I liked how they called the reel-to-reel. They called it a lunchbox. They were calling the reels, they call them biscuits. It was great.
Oh, yeah. And he was like, they're not called biscuits. That's when he's the right term for that.
Yeah.
It's just so great. I love all of that lingo. The terminology is so fun. I don't know what it was. It was very, very witty. You know, like they were but it was very fast. And yes, I had closed captions as well. First time I watched it, I might have to rewatch that opening scene. I'm missing the entire opening dialogue here. I'm not getting what they're saying.
And the other thing that didn't help was he's faced away from camera because it's a tracking shot to his back when he's walking in. I was like, I can't even read this guy's lips. For the older deaf people in the audience, it's going to be rough, guys. But,
it'll be tough. I know.
Yeah, exactly.
So I will say, like, I actually am a little bit older than you guys. I actually recognize pretty much all the little slang things they said. I thought they were kind of being like Dobie Gillis. There we go. Anybody know that one? With kind of hitting the slang in the certain points.
You can't throw out Dobie Gillis and then not let us know what the hell.
Do you guys know Dobie Gillis? No, because never.
No. Okay, moving on.
Do you know Gilligan?
Island?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dobie Gillis was played by Bob Denver, who was Dobie Gillis before he was struck on an island.
Premiering in 1959, Dobie Gillis.
They used a lot of the similar slang. I'm not that old, but I'm very familiar with a lot of the slang they said. So I didn't really have a hard time understanding the slang, but they definitely spoke over each other quite a bit. And I think they did that. It's very interesting because the pacing in this movie is so slow at times, but at the very beginning, it's very much boom, 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 with the motion going through the basketball game. The ball is bouncing. They're going in to talk about Emmett or Everett or Emmett. And then he's going back out. He's stealing a trombone and he's going to talk to people. That whole opening sequence is so quick. And then we get into the meat of the movie, and where the meat is, you have those very long static shots.
You're absolutely right, because I was reading some articles about when they were writing the script. The first 18 minutes of this film are 42 pages long. So that's how much dialogue they are quickly running through. The director of photography was actually nervous about how long the script was, but then after they had shot one of the scenes where it's 4 people talking, they're all talking over each other, he was like, oh, okay, I know how we're going to get through this film.
Amazing feat, honestly. Those actors, gosh, all those lines.
There are some fantastic scenes, a lot of long shots.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about the casting too in this film. Patterson was very, very smart. It took him a long time to find the right people for these roles because there is so much quietness, like a focus with the characters. There's a lot of talking, very loud in the beginning, but then you have this quiet eeriness that the characters have to live in, and they have to react to it. Yeah.
And a lot of it's by themselves also.
Yeah.
Like they are the only thing you're paying attention to.
Yeah. They're carrying a lot. I'm incredibly impressed.
I will say too, like when you mentioned that they're by themselves, so I think right to Faye's scene where she's listening to a person that's talking on the radio, and she doesn't move much either.
No.
Right? And I think that actually goes very strongly to that actors don't necessarily need to emote with their faces. They need to like emote with their emotions inside their brain. You knew what she was thinking, and she was being drawn in, and she was being drawn in, and you as the audience member were also being drawn in too. But she didn't have to do a lot of face scrunching or gasping or anything. She just was listening.
To just kickstart this forward a little bit, they meet up outside the gym. They have the tape recorder. She's so nervous she didn't even turn on the recorder or record anything. So Everett is like, hey, we're going to turn it on right now. What's the first thing he asked her to say into the microphone? Do you guys remember? It's the first thing they record in this movie.
Oh, have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
Yes, this is 1950s. This is peak McCarthy era Red Scare. They gotta find the commie. So I thought that was just so funny that they had
great. That was really great.
Okay, so clue me in about this lunchbox. This is the Weston House?
Yes, what are you going to get?
All right, where'd you get it?
Montgomery Ward catalog.
All right, play me something. What have you recorded?
Well, nothing yet. I mean, I didn't want to mess anything up.
So you haven't recorded anything?
No, I didn't want to mess something up.
Whoa, you have a brand new tape recorder? You haven't been curious enough to push a button?
I've been so curious. I just didn't want to. I'm nervous.
Are the batteries in it?
Yes.
All right, then press record. Pull out the Mac. On the side, are the wheel spinner?
Yes.
All right, then talk.
What do I say?
All right, try to raise your right hand. Say, I'm not now, nor have I ever been a member of the Communist Party.
I'm not now, nor have I ever been a member of the Communist Party.
Around Dodge City into the territory out west.
There's only one way to handle the spoilers and the killers, and that's with the U.S. Marshal and the smell of gun smoke. Brought to you by Ellen M. Filter.
Wow, that's good. You want to hear it?
Yes.
All right, okay.
But yeah, then he convinced her, hey, let's go to all these people are waiting in their cars, about to go into the basketball game. Let's go ahead and interview these people. So she gets a quick rundown about how to interview people. She's still very nervous. And then at the end of that scene, they start walking to their night jobs. And Everett, as Silvia said, is the nighttime disc jockey at, now I'm doing the acronym in my head, WOTW, War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
And then Faye is a part-time switchboard operator.
Interesting. They're both in communication.
They are.
They both finally get to their separating point. Everett goes to his job, and then Faye goes to her job. The first very long scene is Faye going to the switchboard. She takes over for the woman that's doing it before her, and she sits down. Then she puts on the radio to listen to Everett's radio show. But one of the great things about this, I think, is I loved seeing her operate the switchboard. It was so cool. She did it like she was a pro. She's pulling this thing in there, activating this line, sending this phone signal from that person. She was doing all this stuff.
It was so neat. It made me like want to try it out, actually. How cool would it be to have this job? I mean, you're also eavesdropping on everyone's conversation.
And that's another big part, is that the switchboard operator is sitting there listening to your phone calls.
Just to date myself a little bit, my mother actually had that job at a company called Bell Lab.
That's really cool.
Very cool. Did she like it?
Did she like it? She got into computers after that. So no, I don't think she liked it.
And there was some behind the scenes as far as the switchboard. They actually, during the rehearsal process, they actually got 4 working switchboards and they had them retrofitted so that you could actually call in on a cell phone so that they could actually hear you on the earpiece, which I thought was very cool. But they did a week and a half of rehearsals and they actually moved a switchboard and they moved it into her hotel room.
I did read that too. I was like, oh my God. So in between takes, she would literally go back to her hotel room and just practice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she did great. I mean, the scene where it's literally a one shot where they stay on her and it's 10 minutes long.
I mean, that's really, that is a lot for a young actor.
Yeah, it's wild. And the thing that kicks that off is she puts on the radio, tunes into Everett's radio show, and he starts queuing up some songs, and then a mysterious sound comes over the radio.
This is WOTW Radio in Cayuga, New Mexico, and this is the news for the hour. Boeing has introduced its new line of very own pre-owned line.
Number, please.
Officer Sherman declared the incident was caused by, and I quote,
Number,
reckless
please.
driving coupled with slick road surfaces due to ice and thunderstorm. Here is the
Hello?
top secret concept. It will apparently be more consistent and efficient than our previous
Hey, Winnie, it's me.
And finally,
Can you tell me if you've ever heard this sound before?
who passed away last week was
You ever heard that?
No, but put it back on. Let me let some of the other ladies listen.
Okay. Listen, Winnie, I got another call coming through, so I'll call you back a little later.
We are now 22 minutes and 30 seconds into this film, and I would say that this is the inciting incident. This movie is only 90 minutes even. They spent a long time trying to set up the feeling of this town, which I thought was very cool. Or, you know what, now I'm thinking about it, you could actually say that the inciting incident is the first shot where they set this up as being a episode of Paradox Theater.
Honestly, you can say that because we already know now we're in a dimension that is not one that we are very familiar with.
Strange things can happen.
And the first thing that happens in this scene is you hear a very new sound. We wanted the sound in particular to be new in cinema. And so we worked pretty hard at mixing a number of elements together. And then Faye responds to it in a way that initially it frames it as a viewer. Like you see that she doesn't understand it, and even though she's not threatened by it, she certainly starts taking immediate action.
Hello? Hello?
Listen, ma'am, can you disconnect and then try again? It's all...
Calling. Please. Large object holding over my land off of the... like a tornado. Swirling. Please.
Ma'am, is this an emergency?
That was director Andrew Patterson talking about the development of that sound. I will call his BS on the in cinema. We created something unique in cinema.
Yeah, you're like, it's a,
That was a bear growling and a dog having sex with a...
The sound at first, we're hearing it interrupting the radio broadcast of Everett. And it's very muffled. We get a way better listen to the actual sound, like recorded directly further in the film, which makes it a lot clearer. But the main thing would be hissing, kind of like a humming, and then there were clicks in it. And can anyone think, or Silvia, I'm going to ask you, Silvia, what other alien movie has a signal that comes over the radio or a baby monitor and has clicking and kind of sounds like this? Can you think of one? It was directed by an Indian fellow named M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Signs.
Yes, Signs. I immediately, when I heard this, I was like, Signs. I love that film. I think it's great, but the far use of alien signals coming over the thing and it, like the little bit of crackling, I was like, oh, this is very similar to it. A bit. When we hear it clearer, it's not the same thing, but I don't know if this is unique in cinema, Mr. Patterson.
Yeah, I think he was probably inspired by...
Yes.
You know, it's interesting. I think he probably wanted to keep it subtle enough.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like over the top, like, we are aliens, we are, something crazy. Like, yeah, Mars invades kind of thing.
Mars Attacks? Do we want
Mars Attacks?
A film we will definitely have to cover.
I think we're covering it now. I think he didn't. For me, I'm a stupid viewer. I didn't really get so much out of it. I actually got more out of listening to it right now with you. I was like, oh yeah, it's pretty prevalent. When I listened to it, I actually had my surround sound, everything going on. It's so subtle that I think he over-subtled it. And I think it would have been nice to have found something a little more unique than maybe this is just like a hum on the wire, more or less.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, John.
Yeah.
If it was a little bit more distinct, I think it would have had a little bit more impact.
Yeah, because I would say I missed it too, maybe the very first time around. What I'm focusing on in that phone call as she's getting patched is it's just the noise, it's wind essentially that I'm hearing. And you're hearing just the crackling of the line itself with the woman talking. I don't really hear the background. It does become clear later, but I wasn't really aware of it then.
I feel like even if they made it a more distinct sound, they still could have pulled off the idea of sucking you into it more later when we actually hear the clearer recording. I think would have been fine.
Can we talk about that phone call that you just played?
Absolutely. So she gets a phone call, as we heard in the clip there, and it's a woman saying there's something in the sky. There's also like a tornado, and we're going into our storm cellar.
It was very interesting because this is kind of, you're right, Kevin, this is like a central focal point of the film. I think we actually heard that sound effect before. That phone call comes in and the actor is interested in what she's saying, but she doesn't stop everything she's doing for a person who's literally saying, I'm being attacked, more or less.
It's a very subdued reaction.
People are watching the basketball game. We don't really want to bother them. I mean, there might be somebody dying. And this is a small town. I think that is also because I actually used to live in Mississippi and small town kind of feel to it. It's like if you heard something going on, first, you definitely would be on the phone with 25 people. They all knew each other and they would say, oh yeah, Earl's down at the Piggly Wiggly and he's getting a snack. So we'll go get him. This was very much like, hey, something important is happening. Maybe I'll check with somebody. Maybe I'll get back to it later.
Doesn't she try to call the sheriff's office?
She first calls the sheriff's department. Nobody picks up. So then she calls another, I think it's I forget who it is, but some character we only hear, and says, hey, the sheriff in? And she's like, no, actually, some guy came in and said that there was almost like a tornado or something, and it knocked over somebody's truck on the highway, and now there's avocados all over the road. The main point of the scene is she's trying to figure out what the deal is with that sound that came over the radio, but then it's also coming in through the switchboard now.
Yeah. I feel like she's trying to be calm, right? Like that's it's almost like being a 911 operator.
It's like being like a bad 911 operator. We're like, I'm shot in the leg. I'm dying around the street. They're like, do you have emergency? Is this an emergency? I just fucking told you I'll die.
I'm bleeding out.
Can this wait till halftime? That's all I'm going to ask.
I'm sorry, but everyone's at the game.
I almost feel like, too, one thing that they definitely talk about in Faye's character is that she's very, I wouldn't say naive, but she's not very experienced. She dreams of bigger things. She's very interested in like science and mechanical magazines, but she does not know how to handle this situation.
We had two different opposing characters, right? Everett and her. Faye was the one who wanted to learn more and was probably smarter, but a little timid. And then Everett, who he just smoked all the time and was a fast talker and overconfident.
He tries to be the practical type.
Yeah, he's just like, I don't believe in all that stuff. What are you talking about? Self-driving cars, phones you're going to keep in your pocket. What?
when they're born, everyone's going to be assigned a phone number. And then you're going to have a phone on you that's going to have a little 2-inch Lilliput screen. That's going to be in color. And you know what? If you call someone and they don't pick up, you'll know they're dead.
You're going to have the phone on you all the time.
Yeah, so like, what a critique of the internet age.
It was so great. I would have loved to have read one of those magazines.
Eventually, all streets will be electric. When's that going to happen? 1974.
We're a little late.
This scene, though, is fantastic. It's pretty much just a one shot that slowly pushes in on her as she's trying to figure all this stuff out. Eventually ends up calling another switchboard operator and then ends up patching the sound through. And then right then she ends up getting another call, which is the woman that we heard that was distressed. And then she ends up calling Everett to tell him that the sound cut through into his broadcast. He says, well, I didn't hear it on my end. I'm recording the show, so I'm just going to play it back and see if we hear it. So he plays it back, and what do you know? They end up hearing the sound.
There is a sound. Crystal clear.
So he says, hey, Faye, why don't you send me the sound that you're getting through your switchboard right now? And I'm going to play it on the radio and see if anybody knows. I mean, this is something you can only do if you are in a town of 492 people and 487 of them are at this basketball game.
Why wasn't he broadcasting the game? We should have been broadcasting the game.
I don't think he cares about any of that stuff.
I didn't understand that either. And also, when he shows up to the gym at the very beginning, he's telling the guys how to run the freaking recorder. And Everett, you're not even supposed to be here. Emmett's supposed to be here. Why are you telling these guys how to record the damn thing? The game's going to start in 5 minutes. Thank God they messed up the name and you're here.
Shenanigans.
Yes, a lot of shenanigans happening.
I did like going back now to that scene where he walks in and he's talking to the guy with the biscuits recording, and he's asking him how to do it. And he asked him if he believes in the Bible. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
He's like, you ever read the Bible? He's like, yeah. He's like, well, that's your answer right there. And he's like, what?
He has some great lines. John, what you're discovering is how fun that dialogue was in the beginning and how you're learning about these characters.
I didn't like the movie, but
Send me that signal again and I'll put it on the air. I mean, if anyone's out there listening, maybe they'll know something.
And you sure you won't get in trouble?
I don't care if we do this. Is good radio.
Okay, I'm doing it. Here, I'm sending the signal.
Don't call me for 10 minutes unless someone calls in. I don't want any false alarms. Watch your clock now, 10 minutes.
Okay, I understand. I'll wait for the calls. Here you go.
Well, there it was, just like I said it would be. That was Gabe Gunton, followed by Crazy Waves from the Golden Globes. At 7:18 here at WOTW. Hey, listen up, because we got a quick query for anyone that wants to take a crack. We've got a sound we'd like to play that seems to be sort of bouncing around the valley tonight. We'd like to know your thoughts. We're standing by the phones, and we'd love to know if there's an old expert or ute ham operator we don't know about that's tangling up our antenna. And for the caller who can help us out and can tell us what the sound is, we've got a free piece of Elvis's carpet pulled directly from his floor in Memphis. Lines are open. Please call with any information.
how did they get the carpet?
Later in the film, they actually talk about they actually did have carpet.
They did have
apparently
carpet.
it ran out, and then they just started giving their friends carpet away, which Faye is not very happy about.
That dialogue is hilarious because when she calls him out on it.
And that's actually, we'll get to it, but that's one of the turning points of her character, actually.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, fuck this guy.
So anyway, they ask if anyone hears it, and then obviously, in order to call into the radio show, how do you call into the radio show, Silvia? Do you call right into Everett?
No, you got to be patched in through Faye.
And I actually love that. Now you get two people in separate locations, and Faye is kind of like the gatekeeper here. But yeah, she gets a call from a guy named Billy. He says he's in the Army. She says, I'm going to patch you right through to Everett.
There were tents and tunnels and underground labs or test bunkers or something. And I pretty quickly got briefed by some officer I'd never seen. And he told us everything we were seeing was classified. And if we ever spoke about it, it would endanger America, and they would know. And we were all sent to this rocky kind of sandy alcove, and they had us start digging a square hole with their digging machines and such. And we built walls out of blocks and a concrete floor and such. And we built windows that connected to a viewing room and ventilation. And they had us sleep in this room filled with cots, war supplies, all underground. Then one morning we woke up and I reported to duty, and there was something enormous in that hole, covered in a tarp.
What do you mean?
It was bigger than an airplane, but no one was allowed to see it. And there were guards surrounding all day.
Well, what'd it look like?
It was mostly smooth, but it looked broken or damaged, because there were some rough patches.
You think it was American?
There was no way to know. You don't ask anything like that. We want to know just like anybody wants to know about something. But you trust your superiors and you follow orders. But this one worried me.
And why's that?
Probably because it was so secretive.
Okay, so what happened next?
Well, we built the ceiling over this thing carefully, and then when they were done with us, Saf got us all boarded on the plane. And when the propellers had started spinning and we were about to take off, and the radio started playing the sound.
What sound?
The same sound you just played tonight.
And then he goes on to talk about how after that job, he starts getting sick. And he ended up running into somebody else that was on that same construction detail, and they were also getting sick.
That seems suspicious. We might need to pay attention to that fact. That was very important.
Well, the fact is, though, Billy has to explain this story, right?
I thought all the performances were great. Go ahead.
So in defense of this movie, during this scene, it's the callback to that we are watching this episode of Paradox Theater, right? And the great thing about this is it actually pulls out to the black and white TV. And on the TV, we aren't seeing either Billy, the person giving the story. We're not seeing Everett. We're not seeing Faye. We are actually looking at an old school 1950s radio.
Yep.
Which I thought was great. And you hear the audio change to sound like it actually is coming through a radio. And it goes on for about a minute and a half. And then it fades to black. We're in complete darkness. And I can only imagine how cool this would have been to see with an audience. Because now you're in the radio show days, right? You're listening to the Shadow or any of those. John, you probably have some other great ones. I only listened to the cassette tapes of the Shadow. But you listen to a radio play for 3 straight minutes in the dark. I thought this was fantastic. And I'm curious. I've got a question for you guys. I watched this 3 times. And the first time I watched it with closed captions on. So even during the darkness, I was still reading the captions. And then I was watching it last night. And I was like, you know what? I'm not getting the full experience. Let me shut the captions off. Let me put my headphones on. I'm going to listen to it through my headphones. So I had the best audio. And I actually loved that experience. So I was curious, did you all watch it with captions or not?
Both. Because like you, Kevin, I realized this film is specifically really about sound. At that point, we have no visuals. So we have to use our imagination. So you're just hearing the words. And I just thought, what a magical experience to have right now in a film. Literally everything is shut off visually. And you just have to focus on this man's story. And it was incredibly effective, incredibly effective.
John, I know this part made you cry. Why don't you tell us?
Beautiful performances throughout. Again, this is more about me than you, right?
They all say it's me, not you.
2 things about me. I really don't like closed captions, mostly because I'm a visual purist. I don't believe the filmmakers made it to have words flashing in front of you. And looking at myself, looking inward, I cannot not read the captions when they pop up. I can't ignore them. So to me, it takes away from the cinematic experience. So I just never have them on. So I did not have them on. Again, though, this scene was probably the scene that pulled me out of it. Because I don't like scary movies. I don't like movies that intentionally try to pull you closer and closer. Mostly, I think because I pull back. Rather than leaning in to find out more and more, I pull away and I go, just get to the point. What are the key elements of what you have to talk about? You're Billy, you got sick, you saw some lights, you heard some noises, and other friends of yours did. So I pull back in that particular moment. So, dear director, it's not you, it's me.
I think that's a fork in the road. If you're not going to like that style, you're not really going to like.
You can't engage, right? Because that's the whole point, I think, is that if you're not kind of sitting forwards, that it is not a thing that you'll be interested in, which I'm really curious then. I mean, with radio plays, John, well, you probably haven't listened to like horror stories, essentially.
I would not have listened to horror stories, but I would listen back in the day. My mother and I used to listen to all the old radio shows, and you could get drawn in, but it was those scenes did not intentionally drag out the apprehension. They basically did get to the point fairly quickly. You'd hear the elements that you needed to hear. They wanted to make sure to hit those points and then move to the next section because they had cigarettes to sell. They had bubble gum and Ovaltine and all that stuff.
Make sure to drink your Ovaltine.
Oh my God. Are we doing a Christmas story?
We're going to have to at some point.
This is probably the moment where I was like, I'm pulling back. I knew that was not going to be good for the end of this film. So
At some point during this story, the phone cuts out, which is a running theme, right? The phones keep on cutting out. Billy does call back. He's not put back on the radio, but this is where we learn that Everett is still recording. He has his own reel-to-reel machine. And he asks him, Billy, why are you telling us this? And he goes, well, it's because I'm old and I'm sick and no one listens to us.
Yeah.
Why don't they listen to you? He goes, because I'm black. When he brought that up, I was like, wow, that's actually a powerful moment in the film. And then he goes on to say that everyone was either Mexican or black. And then Everett says, we've never had a caller that is black. And
Yeah.
Billy says, oh, I'm sorry, I should have told you. This is just insane.
That whole moment is like, oh my God, we are in the late 50s here. And then, of course, Everett says, I don't think that's a problem. He's obviously someone who's a little bit more forward-thinking, progressive, and is like, this is not an issue, but we've never had a black caller.
He doesn't put him back on, but then he says, I did meet another guy that was on the crew. After he got out of the service, he got a ham radio and he started trying to record the sound that we heard from whatever it was that they buried there. He eventually recorded it. They sent him a copy of the tape to Billy. Billy played it. It gave him goosebumps. He ended up burning it. And then he said that there was another person that they sent the tape to that actually lived in Cayuga. And they give the character's name. But then Faye says, actually, he passed away recently. And Billy says, oh, I had a feeling that might happen.
They're all old and sick, right?
So then Everett asks, well, do you know where the tape might be? And he's like, well, maybe if he had kids or anything. And Faye, the smart one, is like, no, they actually donate all of them to the library. So now we know these tapes are at the library. I mean, for Cayuga only having 492 people, it's got a lot of important people in it.
And it really does. I was kind of like, yay, library. Full plug there.
And the library only had like 15 tapes. That was lucky.
The end of the scene is really good too. And Everett's kind of doubting that Faye knows where the stuff is. And she's like, no, I know how to get into the library. We can go do it. And you can see there's a moment of silence. There's a couple beats and you can see the screws turning in Everett's head. And then he just goes, okay, Faye, run. And that's boom. And then it cuts to her and she starts running. The music kicks in and I'm like, oh, this is good.
So do you still have that tape?
No, I didn't want to be caught with it, so I burned it. But one of the other guys, another Air Force gentleman who had been on one of these security details and heard these noises too, and he lives in Cayuga. So he got sent a tape just like mine. And that's what I thought you were playing.
There's one in Cayuga with who?
Raymond Buck, an ex-Air Force gentleman.
So he was mailed a tape with one of these signals on.
But Raymond Buck died.
Oh, no.
Did you say he passed away?
Yes.
I thought that may have happened.
I'm sorry, Billy.
Well, I didn't know him well, you know.
Do you know where his tape would be?
No. Maybe if he had kids.
No, Mrs. Buck gave all his tapes to the library.
No, there's not a tape recorder in the library, Faye.
No, there is. It's in the basement. They haven't had a chance to look at all the tapes yet, so they haven't put it out. I know where it is.
No, the library's closed and no one will be at the board.
Everyone's at the gate. No one's gonna call. I know how to get into the library.
Billy, what do you think it'll do if we can find it and play it?
I don't know. But if you're gonna do it, you better do it. 'Cause something's up there now. And they don't stay for long.
Okay, Faye, run.
I love when he says, okay, Faye, run. That whole moment, that pause, he's thinking about it. He was a non-believer, right? And he still kind of is, right? But at this point, he's like, we need proof. That's the whole thing. The ethics of the story is that he needs proof, right? Right now, it's just this guy's word. It's just Billy's word.
When do you think Faye started feeling something was hinky? And when did you feel that Everett started feeling that something was hinky?
In the upcoming scenes, after they end up getting the tapes from the library and it has the same sound, I think that's when Faye is like, oh, this is real. Billy never says whether or not it's aliens. He's just saying it was something that was making that sound. So I feel like Everett's like, oh, Billy is at least a trustworthy character. I don't know if he's sold on the whole idea that these are extraterrestrial, because Everett does say many times he thinks it's military.
Yeah.
He thinks it's the commies, it's the Russians. Sylvia, what do you think?
I think Faye actually started to believe it a lot sooner. I think she started to feel it. The interest she has in listening to what's going on, because guys, her interest is sci-fi. Her interest is the future, is the unknown. She actually questions a lot of things. She has so many questions right from the beginning. she wants to know. She wants to believe. She is the Mulder, right?
Yes.
To Everett being the Scully, actually.
It's interesting that Faye's character is, you just said it, Sylvia, the listener. She's an operator. She listens to phone calls. She listens. She patches people through. And Everett is the sound maker.
The entertainer.
Exactly.
So he's putting signals out. She's taking them in.
She takes it and she analyzes it. That is her brain. And so I think she picks up on the truth a lot sooner, obviously. So even sooner than that point of when they finally listen to the tape, I think it's during the call.
They get the tapes, and then as she's running out of the library, she doesn't close the door, which I love about that. But who pulls up? It's our man, Everett. So that now they're reunited. She gets in the car, and then they drive back to the radio station. And during the car ride, she brings up, are you going to give Billy a piece of Elvis's carpet? And then that's when Everett says, oh, well, you know, we used to have pieces of it, but we don't have any more. It's just this guy, Bill. I forget what the guy's name is.
Or Jeff or whatever it is.
Yeah, just freaking carpet. And she's like, well, that's lying. And then he just goes, shut up, Faye. And then he cuts.
It's so good.
Is that the line of the movie?
He literally says that.
Shut up, Faye.
Is that the line of the movie?
That's the Jesus wept.
Yeah.
The vast of the night, which is the shortest Bible verse. So now you can actually see Faye's character. She's breaking into the library. She's stealing a bike. Like she's coming out of her shell.
To get to the truth.
Oh, wait a minute. Now you're forgiving her actions, but he's a jerk.
That son of a bitch. So they get back to the radio station, and Billy's on the phone still.
Billy's just like on hold the whole time.
They don't actually have his number. I think he's still on hold, or they call him.
So yeah, they don't know his number because he's afraid for his life as well. So he doesn't want to give him the real, so I forget where he's actually calling from, but
I don't think they say where he's calling from, but at least when they get back with all the tapes, they get Billy on the phone and they say, do you know which tape it might be? And he goes, it's a clear one. And they're like, all of them are clear, even though all of them are not clear. I don't know why. Like half of them are, but most of them are black. They show you a clear one. You're like, oh, that's going to be it. And then it's not that one. It's the second clear one. And for the way that Faye mastered the switchboard, this scene right here is showing that Everett has mastered the reel-to-reel. He's quickly putting them on. He's looping them through. He's, winding them up, playing 5 seconds of it, going through. He does like 8 or 9 tapes. They finally find the tape. They start playing it. And this is the first time that we hear a clear version of the mysterious sound.
That's it. And it's clear.
What are you gonna do?
Folks, we got another sound we do need your help with. Listen up and let us know. And Billy, if this is the sound, give us a call. All right, let's hear it, this cats.
So did you guys feel when you heard the sound, it was dramatically different from the previous sounds that you had heard?
No, the main thing going back to Signs was the clicking was taken out, which I was like, thank God, because this sounds like Signs. But it was more of a hum, like a vibration. Still not a extremely noticeable sound. If you heard it on the radio and it was in static, you would have no idea this is some type of special signal.
Yeah, I heard some mechanical kind of noise to it too. There was a hum, but there was something mechanical about it.
The sound design on this film was exceptionally good.
Absolutely fantastic. They finally get the sound, and what do? They start playing on the radio. And then suddenly the lights flicker, and then it goes out there. Plunged into darkness. Faye is freaking out. Everett is saying, shut up, Faye. Calm down, Faye. And they finally find a flashlight. Everett grabs his reel-to-reel recorder. They run outside, and Faye's like, why are you bringing the recorder? And he's like, in case it's going to be on the news. And then as soon as they get outside, Faye remembers she is working. She's on the clock right now. She's supposed to be on the switchboards. So she starts running. She runs to the switchboards. And when we get to the switchboards, there's 12 calls ready to go.
Number, please. Yes, we're notifying Highway Patrol. We'll relay any news to you. Thank you. Number, please. Sorry for the wait. All right, thank you. Goodbye. Thank you, goodbye. People are saying there's something in the sky.
7:45. Write that down.
Can't you just record it?
Yeah, folks, it is 7:45 p.m. and we may have something that'll need some explaining here in a centimeter.
So they end up going outside to the street, and a car pulls up, and he's got his recorder, and they're hopping out going, what's happening? What's happening? And they're saying there's something in the sky.
Dramatic.
I also love the idea that this is when Faye calls Everett out. The fact is he's telling her to record the time. And she's like, why don't you just record it on the tape recorder? You have it right there. And he's like, oh, yeah, all right. This is now Everett getting frazzled, right? We don't really see Everett frazzled before, really.
I think there's only 2 times in the film that they actually pick up the editing pace. This was the scene where 4 people are all talking over each other.
And I love that too. It was great because they're all having these like weird side conversations. Like one guy's like, I go by Gerald now.
Gary? No, it's Gerald now.
When the lights go out, I think this is another really nice point that they're demonstrating the isolationist feeling that they lack information. They don't know exactly what's happening. They have minimal information. Now they don't have power. They don't have the ability to communicate anymore. That small town field plays into all of this whole motif of don't have all the right information, a lot of confusing things coming in, lights are out, we're alone. But then 2 friends show up, right? And they convey all the information they have at that point, which is there's something in the sky. We don't know what's going on.
We actually don't know who these characters are. I don't even know if do they know
They're
each other?
not friends. They're actually from a neighboring town, and they were just driving, following the thing in the sky.
Oh, okay. I didn't pick up on that. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I heard. They're like, oh, we've been driving and we've been following this thing.
Oh,
and they came upon this town. So
And now, do you guys remember what happens right at the end of this conversation? They're all still in the street. What do we hear? We hear the switchboard.
So the person on the other end of that call is Mabel Blanche.
Mabel?
Mabel. It's a great name, right?
It is a great name.
Yeah. So Mabel is one of the older women, a recluse essentially in Cayuga, and she has a very interesting history. Essentially, she delivers a story saying that she knows this sound. She's familiar with the sound.
I know what's happening. Come over to my house. They go back outside of the street. They say, oh, there's a woman that called. She knows the answers. We're going to go down there. And the couple says, okay, great. Maybe we'll meet up later. We're going to keep following this thing.
Yeah. They're like, we're going to, take out this thing over there.
Yeah. And then they separate.
At that point, so they drive over to Mabel's house. They get access to the key. It's like under some rock or something. When they enter the house, they hear Mabel muttering these very strange words. They're not English. They're not any kind of words that you would hear, I think, on Earth.
Play it now, people might fall asleep.
They might. Or they might start doing something else that we'll get to.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, she's reading it, and you're like, what is she saying these words? And then she's like, oh, I'm back here. And then Everett, as soon as they sit down, immediately calls her out like, what were you just saying? That was like creepy. This is the part that my son actually got nervous in. This is another 10-minute long monologue. I mean, they really give the characters these actors, a lot to carry in this movie. I mean, it really comes down to you got to pick great actors, and I think they did a fantastic job casting this film.
Your son actually was very this is like the scariest part for him?
Yes, because it started getting so intense, and they talk about the muttering, and do you want to give us a brief run through, Silvia, of what the essence of this story is?
It is a very haunting story. She tells about how this sound has basically haunted her whole family. The biggest story is of around her child. She has a child out of wedlock. Her husband passes away. She hears about it. And this being a small town, she didn't have many friends, right? Not many people to take care of a single mother. And obviously having a child, not being married. When her child is about 3, he starts having this weird behavior where he's just kind of zoning out. She kind of can't reach him, and then he wakes up from it, doesn't really remember it. And throughout the years, as he's getting older, now in his sleep, he starts muttering the gibberish that we hear Mabel saying when we're first introduced to her. And she is curious about this. At one point, she ends up writing it down. And because she just hears it so frequently and she doesn't understand what's going on. And she even asked her son, and he doesn't remember really saying anything.
At some point in between 4 and 9, she ended up reading those words to him. And then he went stiff, and then he started slowly looking up at the ceiling. Yeah. And then she stopped, and then he snapped out of his trance. And then when he was 9, he walks out. She followed his footsteps for 150 feet, and he just vanished. Gone into the night. And that's when my son was like, I'm scared.
No, I don't want that. No, not at all. Yeah.
This is really the first time where aliens are brought into the picture, right? No one talks about any beings or anything until this point, right? And then Everett asks her, what do you think it was? And she says, the people in the sky.
They're up there tonight.
right now. And I think there are some reasons to support that idea.
Like what?
I think they stay away from big cities. I think they wait for people to get together in one place like tonight. And when everyone gets out of that game, they're going to be gone. I think they like people alone. And I think they talk to people with some kind of advanced radio in their sleep.
All right, like you think they did with your son.
I didn't just think this up.
I know, John, you got more separated from this. This is tension building. And that's what's so fascinating is that you were like, ew, no. And I think about Kevin's son, who was literally more engaged, but creeped out by it.
So Gail Cronauer is the name of the actress, and she did a phenomenal job.
Great. She was
I don't think I've memorized that many words in my life. So fantastic job. Yeah, for me, again, it's just that when I get into that scene, I know they're creating tension. I know the director is trying to create tension. So I back away. You're not going to fix that. I'm not going to enjoy that scene. She did a great job. It was really well done.
All of that really is beautiful storytelling. It gives you that backstory of what Mabel had to go through, along with knowing the truth about what she believes happened to her son.
They end this scene, the last request, the thing that she was reading when they were entering. She was like, take this piece of paper, read it to the people you meet tonight. But also, before that, she says, I want you to take me with you. Take me to the ship.
She wants to see her son.
They don't take the note that has the ancient writing on it, and then they get back in the car. And I think the thing that we forgot to talk about was the famous one shot of this movie.
It starts at the switchboard because actually one of the interviews I watched too is that Sierra, who plays Faye, says that oneer starts with her. And Everett was saying, or the actor was saying, that it was very stressful for him because he was at the end of the oneer. So he couldn't fuck it up.
It's when they play the audio for the first time and they're waiting for someone to call, and then Billy calls. Everett gives her a cigarette at the beginning. She's like, I'm not allowed to smoke. He's like, no, you got a microphone. It just makes you look cool. Do what everyone else does. But then after they start playing the audio on the radio, she's kind of like nervous. And she then gets up while she's waiting for someone to call and starts smoking the cigarette.
That's when she like smokes a cigarette at the doorway. Yeah. Yes, and then that's when the oneer starts.
Yeah, it's 4 shots in total that they stitch together. It's a 3.5 minute, almost 4 minute long shot. It starts at the switchboard. It goes through the town center, goes through some backyards, goes into the basketball court, does like kind of a loop-de-loop through the actual basketball game where they're playing old school basketball. They have no 3-point line. Actually, a funny story, when they found that gym, it had a great 1950s feel, but it still had the 3-point line. It had glass backboards, so they had to sand down the actual basketball floor, redo all the lines, do a skinnier skeleton key, remove the 3-point lines, and then put in different backboards. So I think the thing looked great. I do have some audio, and this is going to be from Marcus Russ, the executive producer. He was also the camera and gimbal op, and he's going to talk to us about how they made this one shot.
I'm riding on the front of a go-kart, down on my knees so I can lean over the front to get the camera as close to the ground as possible. We started practicing the shot about 6 months before we started shooting, trying to figure out a device that would get me across town with the camera. The first thing we tried was a little miniature go-kart that flipped on us one night. We had a gas-powered skateboard that didn't work. Then we found this go-kart in town and borrowed it from a local preacher, and it worked out great. I bet we practiced this like 50 times. I think it took us 13 takes this night because we just kept hitting bumps. The camera hit the street, and we nailed this fence up here a few times. And on one take, we almost nailed a cat. I really wanted that take to work because it was just cool seeing that cat fly across screen.
So it ended up being 4 shots total. The company that ended up compositing those together is actually called Oneer Effects, and it's a company based out of Buenos Aires. Oh. So they also did all of the virtual effects in this film, including the alien spaceships that we'll see at the end. And there's a great breakdown on YouTube that does a better deep dive into this shot here. If you look up the Oneer Effects YouTube channel, they show that in these shots, they actually composited a lot of trees. And that means that they added trees into the shot when they're actually going through the crowd. That's the outside of the gym. Inside the gym is green screen, and they composited those 2 shots together. It was really well done. In another interview I read, even Steven Spielberg asked Andrew Patterson, how did you guys do this one shot?
And I imagine that Steven Spielberg probably watched it, was intrigued, because it does feel like a sort of prequel to
The Close
The
Encounters.
Encounters of the Third Kind.
And the budget for this film was only $700,000. Me and John talked about this before. He was skeptical, but I watched the virtual effects breakdown. There's a lot of virtual effects in this. None of it's created completely in 3D. Like everything you see is actually shot, but there's a lot of stuff that was added in for the feel of this film.
We're no longer in the 50s, right? I'm sure they had to do a lot of that.
Even the clock that's inside the basketball court, the little cage that goes over the clock, that's all done in VFX.
It looks really amazing. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of CG or anything like that in it. Or
no.
It's
But some of the best CG is about to come up in this film. Where do we leave our characters here? I'm trying to think. Mabel. Just
right?
leaving Mabel's
Mabel.
house.
Yeah.
They're refusing to bring her with her. And then at this point, Faye's like, I gotta go see Ethel. Ethel's watching the baby, which I think is her younger sister. So she runs over to Ethel's house. Ethel's not there. She picks up the baby. She ends up getting into Everett's car, and they are driving back to the center of town, I think, or they're driving back to the switchboard pretty much because she's trying to figure out where the hell Ethel went because she's not watching the baby. And then when they get there, who drives up next to them? Our friends in the other car that were following the stuff that was in the sky. And they say, hey, come on, get inside. There's something in the sky right outside of town. So they all get in the back. It's the baby, it's Faye, and it's Everett, and they still have the tape recorder. And the couple that's driving the car is saying, what'd you find out from the old woman? And he says, I actually recorded some of it, and let me play some of it for you here. So he starts going back in time through his reel-to-reel player, right? And he's looking for the part of the old woman reading the ancient language. And we have that part right here. And just to cue this up, he starts playing this on his reel-to-reel. And as we talked about in the story, for Mabel's son, Hollis, we all remember what happened when she read to him and he started looking slowly into the sky. And the same thing happens with the couple who's driving the car.
I'm back here.
Stop the tape! Stop the tape!
Gerald, hey.
Everett, take the back already!
Gerald, wake up, man! Gerald!
They almost get in a head-on collision because Gerald and Birdie are looking at the ceiling while driving down the road.
Now, I think that was completely unrelated to the tape. He's just probably tired from driving all night.
I mean, they were probably out drinking all night. I mean, they were seeing shit in the sky. Who knows what they were doing?
Yeah.
So.
There's all sorts of drugs back in the 60s.
It was craziness.
And they're in the desert. They could be on peyote. We don't know what.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows what's going on?
That was another part that my son was like, this is kind of creepy.
It's amazing because it's this quiet little moment where you just have this creepiness where something is starting to happen to people. And I know John hates this stuff. He absolutely hates that kind of stuff.
Kevin, I would have loved it if I heard that as you're watching it, that you pretended to kind of fall asleep while.
Imagine my son looks over and I'm just looking at the ceiling. He's like,
no,
stop it! If you love me, stop it! And I just sit there because I don't love him. I'm just staring at the ceiling.
Again, I get defensive on this kind of thing. I felt it was. I honestly, I got a little bothered because she's yelled at Everett what to do, grab the wheel, and Everett just sat there. And it was one of those moments you're like, Everett, grab the wheel.
This is actually her turn, I think, or the completion of her turn. She's like, I'm taking control. So the next thing that happens, because Everett doesn't do a damn thing, she jumps out of the car with the baby and starts running into the forest. She's like, fuck this. I'm tired of letting Everett run the show here. And I think it's kind of the completion of her arc.
Yeah, it's the reversal now. She's less passive. She's now a very active character where Everett's now more blown away by all the things that he's seeing.
He's like, this ain't the Russians. The Russians aren't doing this shit.
Definitely not Russian.
So they run out into the woods. Everett catches up to her. And then they turn around. They notice that there's a giant hole cut in all the trees. And Everett says, you think they're out here in the woods? And they're looking up there. And then they see a field next to it. They walk out to the field. And then we kind of get our Close Encounters of the Third Kind shot where it's a low shot. We have them in the center. She's holding the baby. And then we see the ships for the first time.
Yeah.
I thought the visual effects looked really good. I thought they pulled this off.
I thought it was great. It's a 1950s type of style ship. It's like there's no like major glitz to it. And I actually love that the first time you really start seeing it, you just see lights. You really don't see the shape of the ship. It's just lights. And that's like that eerie feeling when you look up at the sky and you're like, I can't understand what I'm seeing. Like, what is going on here? What is that?
There's one in the distance, and then the great thing is it's still a one shot. They're holding on it. They see the lights in the distance, and then you notice the shadow starts covering them. And then they look up, they're like, oh shit, there's a giant ship right above us.
It's great. And that music, the score is so wonderful during that whole moment. I loved it. I became so still watching that scene. I remember my first time watching that film and just being in that moment. I'm like entranced. Am I about to be abducted?
Well, that's what happens next, Sylvia. The wind picks up. And then the next shot is their car. The original car is still in the street. The door's open. Mm-hmm. The townspeople are obviously the game is done. They see the car door open. And then the next shot is a close up of all the footprints in the dirt in the field that they just were. And then we come upon the recorder, Everett's recorder, sitting there in the dirt, and they are missing. And what I love about that is they could do a sequel. Let's do The Vast of Night 2. Someone finds the recorder. It would be a great sequel, I think.
That's the whole thing. And it is an ambiguous ending, right? It could be, were they abducted? They make a comment about when they're entering the field that everything is burnt. So I actually was like, so there's a lot of ash everywhere. I also wonder when you have that close-up of the footsteps and you don't see their bodies, right?
It looks like ash, yeah.
That they were incinerated too. It's like, were they actually taken up or were they actually...
It could be because the tape recorder is completely covering it.
What is all that stuff?
But the tape recorder's fine.
But the incineration could also be maybe specifically for...
Their death rays only incinerate stuff that's organic. It does the trees. It doesn't do metal, John. Get with it.
Doesn't do metal.
Overall, I feel like the ending is great. I love seeing the recorder in the dirt and just thinking, hey, the whole story's on that thing.
I mean, it is awesome. And yeah, they're probably likely taken, but I also love that you maybe don't quite know. They're just gone. And like Mabel said, they focus on quiet towns when there's not many people around. They don't want a big crowd. And they found these two very curious people in this town. And who knows? Maybe they're going to meet Hollis. Who knows?
Hollis is probably in charge. Hollis is like, my mom was a single mom. She was such a pain in the butt. I had to get out of there.
Let's jump into Then and Now. Our chance to explore whether the ideas, values, or setting of this film still resonate in today's world. What aged well? What hasn't? Did we get a feel that we were really entering this world, this small town in the late 1950s? Kevin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I said it earlier. I think it's the crown jewel of this thing. I think they did a fantastic job making the world of Cayuga, New Mexico, population 492. I thought it was great. I loved all the callbacks to, like, the Red Scare, the McCarthyism, Faye talking about autonomous cars and electric roads and what would be smartphones. I loved that whole vibe, and I loved that this was a genre film that was not the typical genre film. I loved how it had all the elements of, the radio play and all that stuff. I would say it held up. John, we know you absolutely love this film. You were talking about getting a tattoo of the movie poster on your chest. So, John, why don't you tell us Then and Now? Did the 1950s stuff hold up for you, John?
So for me, I think we start off where you lose me on this film is the Twilight Zone, right? We start off with the Twilight Zone feel. Was this a really good Twilight Zone episode? No, it wasn't. It was okay Twilight Zone episode. So did they do beautiful work? Absolutely. I don't want to, I can say, did they capture small town? Having lived in a small town a little bit, but I'd have to say the era, I didn't buy the era that they really actually captured. I think they captured a picture of what somebody might today think was like that back in that day. Part of that probably is because we only meet some of the characters in any depth, and we really didn't get a lot of the ins and outs of the character depth of our two main characters. I didn't get to know them emotionally, where they were emotionally in that era. I don't think they captured it. So that's all I have to say.
Silvia, What'd you think?
I feel like it captured a small town kind of vibe. But again, yeah, you're right. How accurate is it to the late 1950s, to a fictional town in New Mexico? Who I don't know. But I felt like I was in the 50s. You know, the fact is they brought in a bunch of dirt to cover all of those roads to make it feel closer to a very small town that still feels very rural. Like, not all the streets are paved. They changed a lot of the signage around the area. I mean, I felt like they created that world really effectively. The dialogue brought you there. Like, I just feel like all of that felt pretty authentic to me. So I would say that the feeling of that sci-fi 1950s, small town, everyone knows everybody, and then this weird little thing happens. It does feel like a Twilight Zone episode, you know, or Outer Limits kind of thing. I think it feels like you are walking into another dimension, right? I mean, we even have like a Rod Serling kind of voiceover in the very beginning. I feel like it kept me there. Yeah.
Well, here at Is It Streaming, we might not agree on everything, but we do choose one cast or crew member we all agree should be recognized for their work on this week's film. This week, we are choosing to spotlight sound designer Johnny Marshall. Johnny Marshall, yes, clap, clap, clap.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Fantastic
sound
work.
design in this is fantastic. Star of the show. Johnny Marshall is a Texas-based sound designer and re-recording mixer with over 30 years of experience in the film and television industry. He has worked on more than 80 feature films, as well as numerous commercials, documentaries, and short films. One of his most recognized projects is The Vast of Night, where he served as supervising sound editor and re-recording mixer. The film premiered at Slamdance, as we said, was later streamed on Amazon Prime, which you can watch it on now, and was widely praised for its immersive sound design, which played a central role in building tension and atmosphere, which we've all experienced. The film's success led to increased recognition for Marshall's work, including interviews and panel discussions about his techniques, so go ahead and search for some of those online. Marshall began his career as a professional musician and songwriter, which led to his early work in jingle production and eventually into audio post-production. He is the founder of Marshall Sound Design in Dallas, Texas. Mr. Johnny Marshall, great job.
It was really, really well done.
Yeah, fantastic.
And that goes from everything from the sound on the telephones, in particular, like that they didn't overdo the sounds on the telephone lines. Like when you were listening, yes, they had a little audio sound, but it wasn't like, well, I'm calling you from this zone. Like it was very subtle, felt very natural.
I agree.
And as far as building tension, like you guys like, sound design is so much of that movie. And with that, it's time for our final reviews. Each of us are going to drop our 1 to 10 rating to give a quick take on where we landed on this film. Kevin, you're up.
All right, I'm gonna heap praise on this film. First time I watched it, I would have said it was probably like a 7. And I've watched it 2 other times since then. This jumped up to a 7.9 for me. It's not quite 8 territory, but I feel this is a film that is going to grow and still be watchable decades in the future.
It's a solid 8. I loved it. I think it's great. I've watched it now like 4 times. Well, if you count the first time I watched it back in 2020, watched it 4 times. Still loving it. Still think it creates that tension that it needs. Still feels relevant. Yep. 8. Solid 8.
So for all the reasons that you guys love this film, I will first and foremost say that really well directed, really well acted, beautiful lighting, lovely sound design. For me, this is a 2.5, and that's pushing it for myself. It's the antithesis of a movie that I like. It took way too long. I would love it if this were a short. If this were a 30-minute short, I would be all over this film. But every scene took way too long, and for me, it was just not a pleasant experience. So,
well then.
Okay.
And listeners, that's our show. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please tune in to our next episode when we discuss the 2006 ensemble crime thriller, The Departed.
You've been listening to the Is It Streaming podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, like and subscribe on your podcast channel of choice. Be sure to leave a review worthy of Siskel and Ebert, and share episodes with your friends, family, and the cinephiles in your life. Is It Streaming is part of the Writer's Bone podcast network, founded by yours truly, Daniel Ford. In addition to our flagship show, Writer's Bone, The network features Film Freaks Forever, As Told To, the Ghostwriting Podcast, The Thoughtful Bro, and the Movie Loft Podcast. Sensing a theme? Writing and storytelling are in our DNA. Go to writersbone.com to learn more. Once again, thanks for listening. See you next time.